Ready to go. Take your seats and we're ready to go. Sam's listening. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Canterbury Civil Defence Emergency Management Group meeting held on today, the 13th of February. And Jamie, could I ask you to open with a Karakia, please?
Tēnā tātou katoa. First of all, aroha mai. I'll start in English first. Again, probably from the KEG meeting, I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of two rangatira within our emergency rōpū, Chris Allen from RAG, and also affectionately known to me, DJ David Johnston. Two very big losses. And in particular, aroha mai, but I believe Chris's replacement is here. And sorry, is that correct, Neil? Did I get that wrong? No, not here. But just want to acknowledge his contribution and the connections that we've all had, that we have had with Chris. And also to me personally, David Johnston as well, who was a big supporter of Te Rūnanga o Ngāi Tahu within, in particular with RANZ and with improving mana whenua and iwi roles within emergency management. So moi mai rā i ngā rangatira. Tēnā koutou katoa. E oku i ngā kura matua me whanaunga, tēnā koutou, ānei tō tātou karakia, whakataka Tahu ki te uru, whakataka Tahu ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tara ki tai, e hi ake ana te atukura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei Māori ora. Kia ora tātou.
Thank you, Jamie, for that karakia, and also I'd like to just also acknowledge Chris Allen, who is from the Ashburton District and put a lot of work into the Rural Advisory Group as chair and fed into here. Normally online he was sitting there, and great loss to the Ashburton District and all of us, and who is also a personal friend of mine, so we all miss him, and he contributed a lot to this world. Call for apologies, and I have apologies for absence from Mayor Anne Munro, and welcome Karen in Anne's absence, and Dan Gordon. I have an apology from Dan, and also James McKenzie's not here today, but Phil will be sitting under, not McKenzie, okay,
James Thompson.
Thompson, that's it, and but Phil Mackay's sitting in for James. No further apologies. Conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest to the items on today's agenda? No. Public forums, deputations. There have been no requests. Extraordinary and urgent business. Is there any? No notices of motion. Nope. Minutes. The minutes are on page 10 to 29, and we're looking for matters of accuracy relating to the minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of November 2024. So I'd like to confirm that the minutes of the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee meeting held on 28th of November 24. Mover? Phil? Sam? Any discussion? All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Report items for information. Item 8.1. And Phil?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take the report as read. All the actions have been closed off or completed, except for the last one, which is on page 35. And it's actually bullet points 2 and 3 that haven't been completed. They're still in progress. And we will actually speak to it later in the KEG Chair's report on the delay on that. Happy to take any questions.
No questions? Clarification? John? Uncle? Discussion? Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 8.2. CDEM exercise and exercise Pandora report. Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the final closeout report for Exercise Pandora 2024. It was a significant exercise which was very well received and well conducted, with some great learnings and recommendations coming out of it. I'll take the report as read. The key things I'd like to acknowledge is that some of the recommendations are positive of nature. So what we're saying is we actually have identified some learnings from previous events or exercises, have found solutions, and are now demonstrating by this exercise the embedment of that good practice. So some examples of that was the roading status viewer on all our public roads, and also the electronic streamlined needs assessment process. So that's some of those examples. Part of this report also acknowledges the review of the actual conducting of the exercise. And I suppose I just want to draw your attention that for a one-day exercise or a day and a half's exercise, it actually took 6 months of planning, and engagement of an external facilitator. So a considerable time and financial commitment is required to deliver an exercise of that nature. Also, the final part of the paper talks about the future exercise planning. So once again, trying to provide transparency of what we're going to regionally coordinate in the exercise space. So it's a 3-year rolling cycle. So very much local on year 1, which would be this year. Year 2 is when we have multiple TAs joining together for a similar themed exercise. And obviously the year 3 would look very similar to last year exercise, where it's across the entire region and potentially inter-regional as well. So I just wanted to make that. That doesn't exclude any other exercising throughout the year where individual councils or supporting other agencies could also occur. So it's just identifying this as what would be regionally coordinated. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Phil? John.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. In calling into the precinct, one of the, I think, became a wee bit evident in conversations is, as we've uplifted our TAs and everyone's lifted up in their thinking and ability and skills and know exactly where they're going, it has created maybe a wee bit of a challenge on prioritisation of resourcing and things. What have we learnt out of that as I guess as people are getting better at doing their job in a space, but having to be kind of, that bigger picture? Have we learnt anything from that?
So through the chair, just for clarification, so more the prioritisation of critical resources or that bigger, clunkier, challenging issues?
Probably the resourcing, where if you had a TA involved, then everyone does everything they can because it's confined in a space and they're really good at doing it, still really good at doing it in a wider exercise. But then that question of prioritisation of resourcing then becomes a challenge of how we feed that through a system to ensure we get the right resourcing to the right place.
So we actually did participate in a scenario in that exercise where, surprise, surprise, helicopters became a critical resource, even though we tried to say there was heaps of them out there. And what we did is we created a solution on the day where it was very easy to talk to the 3 territorial authorities that were requesting that resource, and between the 3 it was very easy to identify what the priority was, and it was also then communicated back to those 3 EOCs, the decision that was made by the group controller, which was great, and it was quite nicely received. What we did since then is we have started to build a more robust decision matrix to enable to be a little bit more evidence-based. And the work we've done on that space is positive, and it does allow us to then fairly and equally communicate why a decision was made to take a resource from one location and potentially put it into another, because we acknowledged very straight away that this would create a tension for the territorial authority or the agency that was using it, and we're picking up and moving elsewhere. So we felt that we need to demonstrate good leadership by demonstrating why we chose that action. So that tool is up and running. We haven't shared it widely or tested it because it's still in development, but it's something we are working towards.
Thanks. I do see it as a positive in that we've got that uplift within our TAs and our teams and knowing what they want to do, but it's how we pull it together, which was, I guess, the reason for the exercise. So, I was just interested in the response there. Thanks.
Mayor Sam?
Yeah, I just want to support the reason and rationale behind doing these exercises. And you talked about the amount of effort that needs to go in to make a few-day event happen, but that's going to be so important when we face the real situation. And so thank you to the work that the team's done to do all that background work, and for each of the teams within our own organisations. I just think it's a really valuable way of being as prepared as we can for the big event.
Thank you for that comment. I just probably want to reiterate, and that's probably the beauty of this particular scenario, because it's science-driven. We're actually then be able to put some really robust consequences into it to then plan for it, and we've exercised it, and we have identified some work-ons that we can actually go away and resolve, and know we can pick it up and put it into play for that particular event. So I think, once again, the benefit of that particular scenario is that we could actually put a lot of our learnings and plans on the shelf because we know we can pick them up for when it does happen.
That's good stuff. Any further questions of Phil on the report? Will?
Through the chair, I was just picking up on Mayor Broughton's point. At the KEG, we actually added in a third recommendation just to acknowledge and thank the team, because we recognise the significant amount of effort that was put in over those 6 months, and I think we got learnings both at a group level, but particularly at a TA level as well. So, although it was one day, it took 6 months, but it was worth it from the outcomes that we got from it.
Yeah, and we're going to have a point 3 on this recommendation, which will acknowledge that, and Oliver's working on that, if he hasn't done it already. It's coming up. Oh, there we are. So there will be a point 3, yeah. Any further questions?
Just from Mackenzie, we wanted just to acknowledge that one of the outcomes that came out of there gave us a good opportunity to work on something that had really kind of slipped, which was dealing with tourists when they were at Mount Cook, because those numbers can change between seasons and times, and all of a sudden it's a huge problem if something happened in the height of summer when we've got significant tourist numbers up there. So that for the Civil Defence team for Mackenzie District, we're looking at that just to make sure we put some rigour around it.
Thank you for that. And you're having an exercise that highlights those areas where there could be deficiencies and fill them ready for the event, and the unlikely event of it happening. But we say unlikely, but who knows? Yeah, and what it will be. So if there's no further questions, there's a recommendation there. Someone like to move, and Sam and Craig Rowley. Any discussion? If not, we'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next item, 8.3. CDEM Coordinating Executive Group Report. Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Take the report as read. It's really just an overview of a lot of the papers that are here and just the discussions and the views from KEG. There are probably 2 or 3 points I just want to bring attention to. So point point 4 was the point around we received the final draft MOU and terms of reference that has been worked on for a considerable amount of time, but the intention was to try and bring a final version to this meeting, but we felt that there was probably further conversation that may be required with Te Rūnanga and Tahu just to confirm that what's represented in there is sufficient, and rather than bringing a version that most people sign and then having to bring another version back to sign, we decided to leave that on the table until the next KEG meeting, with a view that we could hopefully finalise that and bring a version that everybody can sign at one time. So that's in regard to that point. Point 6, I think the NEMA update will touch on the catastrophic event handbook, but it was just to confirm that we've confirmed that before the end of this financial year, the group will hold a workshop to actually work through that and understand what that might mean in terms of both at a group and a local TA level. The point 11 is just noting that on Monday I'm actually attending the NEMA workshop in Wellington, which is the Chief Executive Coordinating Group workshop around the Emergency Management System Improvement Program and the Emergency Management Bill. So I think the group managers have been up there, James has been up there the last couple of days, and the KEG chairs are getting together on Mondays, and a thing that we need to bring up. And just the final point that we thought that we've actually just introduced a new item on the KEG agenda, which is a feedback loop from this meeting to make sure that all the outcomes from this meeting close the loop and gets fed back. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Will. Questions of Will? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The work on the bill, so we've got our group leaders up and you're going up. Where do we get the feedback, I guess, back into a governance space of mayors and others of where the bill is travelling itself? Is there an opportunity for an early sort of update of where things are and what timelines might look like?
I think that's what Monday's all about. We've just got the information sent through yesterday, so I'm just going through now. But I know that the feedback is they're on a pretty tight time frame to produce a roadmap, and so I'll certainly be finding out in terms of what opportunities there are for further engagement and input into both of those.
I think it would be useful for that to be circulated amongst mayors and others so that we're all on the same page along the way and don't find ourselves in positions we found ourselves in before.
So we can circulate?
I'll certainly feedback. I can circulate what feedback after Monday.
Yep. Phil?
Through the chair, I believe Mike Galuli from NEMA will also have a more recent update from our KEG meeting around some dates and future engagement with joint committee chairs.
So we'll hear from Mike very shortly. Any further questions for Will? No, there's a recommendation there that we receive the report. Move in a second. Nigel, Phil. Further discussion? Put the motion on in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next item is 8.4, which is the NEMA update. And Rochelle's not with us today, but Mike is. Welcome, Mike.
Kia ora koutou, and nice to be back in this forum. I just want to acknowledge Councillor Sunkel's remarks about the bill and the Emergency Management System Improvement Program. So I'll take the NEMA paper as read, happy to answer any questions on that, and maybe just focus this conversation on the bill and MSIP. First of all, I want to acknowledge the fact that this is happening at pace, and there's probably justifiably, there's probably a little bit of, I think we would acknowledge that there is frustration around the speed with which things are happening. The MSIP program is running in phases. Phase 1 was the decisions going to Cabinet. Phase 2 is the detailed roadmap and implementation plan, which was to go to Cabinet and was, I think, initially programmed for 25 Feb. It's now going back on the 9th of April to Cabinet, so decisions will be made, not decisions will be made, it will go to Cabinet on that date. There is a KEG Chairs hui on Monday, which I'm really pleased to see Canterbury going to be well represented there, and I know Will do a good job at feeding back. But additionally to that, the Joint Committee chairs throughout the country should have received in their inbox an invitation to a similar kind of engagement on the bill and the Emergency Management System Improvement Program for the 5th of March. And if you haven't received that, I will follow up. But I would absolutely encourage the chair to attend that. There will be an agenda circulated for that, as well as collateral on the bill, particularly the problems and the issues and the options that will be that form part of that whole policy process. So that is the update on the MSIP program and the bill. I'm happy to answer any questions and take on board any concerns you might have.
Thanks, Mike. We'll take questions, and moving at pace is good as long as there's good decisions made. That's the main thing. Things are done at pace. Any questions, Mike? Jamie.
Kia ora. Did you say the invitations have been sent out to KEG representatives for that meeting on the 5th?
No, that's Joint Committee.
Joint Committee chairs? Yep. Okay. Iwi as well?
I believe...
Button.
Pardon me, sorry. I believe there was an iwi forum last Tuesday. I can follow that up with you. But no, my understanding was that the 5th of March meeting is not for iwi chairs. That was done last week. And that forum was chaired by Kerry Allen, just FYI.
No further questions? Yeah.
Just on page 113 around the section titled Starlink, could you just please provide some more detail about the Public Finance Act considerations that are delaying that agreement?
Yes, my understanding. Yep, my understanding. The Public Finance Act limits what money taken publicly can be used for, particularly if there's a commercial element to it. So Treasury have, when I say got involved, I mean that in the nicest possible way. But Treasury are looking at the contractual arrangements with providers to make sure that the public money is being spent appropriately. So that's the short answer.
There's a recommendation there, so I'd like to move that we receive the NEMA report. Sam, John, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Go for the page 8.5, the Tūranga o Tahu report. Jamie, Elizabeth, Jamie.
Kia ora tātou. Just as reported at KEG, at the last KEG, for Te Rūnanga, it's wonderful that we're engaging with Ngāi Tahu businesses who would like to support our Rūnanga with their emergency pods, with emergency and safety clothing. So that's wonderful to hear. And to add on top of that, the Labour Minister Camilla Bellich, I think, who we met before the last Joint Committee meeting, on our marae emergency preparedness plans, we were very happy with what we presented, with what we achieved with Moeraki, and the plan is, in the short space of time, is to be able to replicate that, starting with Wairewa, Marae here in Canterbury, and then extend that out, but also to do one in Makawhio on the west coast, and Hukanui down in Murihiku as well. So that's progressing well. I also reported that Te Rūnanga o Ngāi Tahu, alongside the University of Canterbury, were successful in receiving funding for a project empowering community resilience to climate change through novel flood scenario analytics. And so that will give our Rūnaka the opportunity to see what the actual effects of flooding, for example, like Cyclone Gabriel, could potentially do to our Rūnaka, and how that will change the landscape. So that's a very exciting project that we're looking to work alongside the University of Canterbury with, and we're currently working alongside our Rūnaka to decide regionally which ones will participate in that particular project. And the fire and the whānau and emergency response teams would like to thank FENS for working alongside us around raising awareness around fire safety in the summer season with whānau, especially around preparing hangi. And so we're looking forward to sharing that with everyone in the near future. And finally, we will be continuing our kauraka e mataku kia takatu, our online campaign around AF8 preparedness for whānau and communities. We were a little bit disappointed that AF8 were unable to support us with similar funding for this project. However, it's something that we planned for, and we intend to go ahead and do this. And we will look forward to presenting the next step of whānau preparedness, in particular with AF8. Completed that around June, July anyway, in conjunction with Maui Studios. So, kia ora, I think that's it for us. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, James. Elizabeth, any questions? No, there's a recommendation there that we receive the verbal update on the civil defence emergency matters from Te Rūnanga o Ngāi Tahu. Move, Nigel. Phil. Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next item is 8.6, and that'll be the financial report. Phil.
Through the chair, I'll take the report as read. Probably the key two things is there's a surplus in the MTech budget line, and that's at Q2 due to the sort of basically the close down over that November-December period of training. However, it's been programmed that money will be spent before the end of the financial year, as training is now ramping up with some earnest, and also the overspend in relation to the Lifelines budget, and that's been addressed in Para 14 in the next report from James, but happy to speak to it now if it's easier. Any questions?
Questions? Phil.
Yeah, that's all good. Is there any problem to get an end of year forecast put in the, and it might be there, but I haven't seen it. I'm not maybe looking properly. If it can be.
Who puts the report together?
Just not now, but in the future.
James does it, does he?
Okay. And just a bit of commentary around current and planned actions going forward, if there is just a little bit of chit-chat on that. Be good. Thank you.
Okay. End of year forecast and a little bit more commentary on overspends or underspends. Yep. Thank you. Nothing further. There's a recommendation there. You received that financial report. Move in a seconder. Nigel, Phil. No further discussion. Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Get carried. Thank you. Next item is the report from the controller, 8.7. Phil.
Through the chair, I'll take the report as read. I'll speak to a couple of them that I know of. The RAG chair, as we've already alluded to at the start of this meeting with the loss of Chris, the deputy chair, David Hewson from South Canterbury, has stepped into that role until the AGM, which is planned for June. So we have gone continuity there. The minister's letter in relation to that national roading status map project, that letter has been sent, and there has actually been very positive feedback from national sources, national government sources, central government sources, almost on the day of the receipt of that letter. So hopefully something will happen. The roles and responsibilities we've already covered off. The solar storm and the tsunami modelling is as read. MSIP we've already covered. So probably the last thing I want to acknowledge is the survey. So this year it's going as an online survey. So traditionally this has been done via a cold calling method, which meant it was done pro rata to each district based on population. So for some smaller districts, you got a very small representation. This being online, it is open to anyone and everyone to fill it out. So what we hope is obviously a greater uptake, but also this will also allow local authorities to drill into some of the statistics on what it means for them as well. Noting that it is electronic, we have got the option of paper-based surveys. All the territorial authorities have got access to them. So I know for some, they are placing them into libraries and other community facilities for people that aren't digitally literate or able to access the digital tool. I strongly recommend, ask for you to endorse this and share it through your channels any way you can. It's open from Monday for 2 weeks, I believe. And the collateral has gone out to the local authorities, and we're doing quite a big media push both regionally and at the local level, which is all being coordinated out of our office. Happy to take any questions.
Questions, Phil, on the report? Just need to reiterate that the people do the survey, so it's been sent to our people. The comms teams will probably have it, so they could circulate and hopefully get a good uptake. No questions. We'll have a move in a second that we receive this report of Group Controller Sam and John. Put the motion, any discussion? Put the motion, all in favour, please say aye. Against, carried, thank you. Coming up to the last item for the report is a report from the committee chair. The only thing, this is a place where you can raise anything you would like. The only thing I have is, I think I mentioned that, or I did mention at the last committee meeting, the terms of reference update. They haven't been done since 2017. I did mention it casually, but there's been no progress on it, so we might do it formally today to get some traction. So the recommendation would be that the chair moves that the terms of reference for the Civil Defence Emergency Joint Committee get updated. There's a seconder for that.
We'll add it to the recommendation for the reference report from the chair.
Okay, you add it to there? Yeah. Right. Cool. So we'll hold that. Any other matters for the chair's report while that's being added? Just while waiting on that, Phil.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, being as it's the year since the last Port Hills fire, how good and easy it was, and it was a report in the paper this morning, how good and easy it was for myself, Sam and Neil to all get it together and get out of the way, make a state of emergency, get out of the way and get the people who know what they're doing the licence to do what they do best. So I think some people say, oh, you shouldn't go out that early. What, you're better off be told off for a little short time about going early and it didn't happen than be told off for the rest of your life if you didn't go out early enough. So it worked very well with the three of us handing it over to everyone. So very good work. So everyone's reasonably happy. So thank you.
Good. Thanks for those comments, Phil. Is there any looking forward for the next year? is there anything you would like as in the way of workshops or anything you'd like to see going forward from the committee? There's your opportunity to raise those points. Workshops, work streams. Nope. Cool. Recommendation there. We received the report and proceeds with a review of the terms of reference for the CDEM Joint Committee. Mover for that, Phil. Second it, Sam. Open for discussion. Done. Oh, who? Someone was? Oh, Will.
I was just going to note, Mr. Chair, that there's the roles and responsibilities document that will be coming back in for the May meeting. So it might well be that we want and then take on a step after that in terms of reviewing the terms of reference. But there's no harm in passing that to have that formally reviewed, but it will just be a timing of when that's done.
Okay. Right, thank you. Elizabeth?
Mai on? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Kia ora koutou. And tēnā koe, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the terms of reference, and I have discussed it with you quite some time ago regarding there's no reference to anything as far as tangata whenua goes, mana whenua, or Ngāi Tahu. So I'm hoping that we could present something to you that would help, I think, look at the terms of reference in a more positive way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll wait the receipt of that. Thank you. Any further? Move in a second to put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you. The next meeting will be on the 29th of May 2025. And we'll have a closing Karakia. Jamie, please. Yep.
Tēnā koutou, katoa. Nā rā te mihi kia koutou. E te mare kura Auntie Elizabeth, tēnei te mihi kia koe. I ngā kura mātua, tēnā koutou. Whakakapi tō tātou hui e karakia tēnei. Unu hia ki te uru tapu nui, kia wātea, kia mama, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua e te ara takata, koe rā e rongo whakairia aki ki runga, kia tina, huie, taikia. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you. Declare the meeting closed.